Hi, I'm Scott Sheldon, and welcome to this episode of Winegazer. Thank you so much for tuning in. So we're back with more Merlot. That's right, part two. We got 3 wines here coming from 2 different producers. And yeah, all from the iconic 2009 vintage, all from Napa Valley. But you know, let's skip the origin of Merlot. We covered that last time. Let's not talk about sideways. Let's get right into tasting the wine. And without further ado, we got a 2009 Switchback Ridge coming from the Peterson family vineyard. It's a blend of 85% Merlot, 15% Cabernet Sauvignon. Rolls in at $56, suggested retail, 15.6% alcohol, 620 cases produced. And for those of you keeping score at home, 18 months in French oak. And Robert Foley, the winemaker behind this project. Check out the label. Read a lot of good things about this wine in some of the big glossy publications. I'm not telling you should listen to those people. I enjoy some of the articles, but trust your own palate. Don't put too much faith in their wine scores. You gotta trust what you like. Peterson family, they had this property where the vineyards are in their family for like about 100 years. It's really only the last 15 years that they've been concentrating on growing grapes, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Petit Syrah, I think. Just primarily orchards, farmland before that. And take a little peek at the wine. So these wines, they've been open for about 2 hours. I actually decanted all 3 of them, poured them back into the bottle. Don't have a lot of space here. And I think they just look cooler in the bottle, in the original vessels they were made in. And so, yeah, just trying to kind of maybe mellow some of those tannins we may run into and open up some of the more expressions of the aromas and the flavors of the wines. So, you know, when you're dealing with these kinds of wines, it definitely helps to decant them. And let's give it a smell. It's pretty oaky, but it's nice, mellow, toasty oak. You got some really nice like red fruit, like some sour cherries and some red currants that are coming through. Great spice component. You got some clove that's coming through. You got some black licorice too. And there's something else in the background that's really, yeah, you got like this floral aspect of like red, fresh red rose petals, not like a dry potpourri, but really like a new rose, like a really small, just opened up like red rose, a really intense, fresh, almost wet rose flavors, aromas. Really, really outstandingly beautiful. Let's give it a taste. The mid palate on this wine is massive. It is just an explosion. It is really, wow. I'm actually taken aback a little bit. It's really, really a tremendous mid palate on this wine, I must say. Wonderful expression of that sour cherry fruit again. You got some red plums coming through also on the palate. Let's give it another taste. Really wonderful structure on this wine, great concentration of fruit. I'm just going to keep harping on how great the mid palate is, because it really is. And the length, the finish, it just, you got a lot of length on this wine. You can easily lay it down for 5 years, you know, 5 or 6 years. It's drinking pretty well right now. And I'm going 4 stars. I think it's a great effort and a great start to the show. So good job. Let's move on to wine number 2. So we're going to talk about Nickel and Nickel, 2009 Merlot coming from the Soskull Ranch in Napa Valley. $50 suggested retail, 14.4% alcohol, and this is 100% Merlot coming from a single vineyard. And what's interesting with Nickel and Nickel is all of their wines are 100% varietal, 100% single vineyard. So kind of interesting stuff. You can check out the label again. Okay, let's give this a pour. So I mean, essentially, you know, a lot of winemakers, you know, they're going to plant Cabernet Merlot, Cabernet Franc, maybe Petit Verdot, some Malbec, and then depend upon, you know, what Mother Nature throws at them from year to year, they'll play around with the blend. You know, you'll have maybe a wine that's Cabernet driven, and it's going to be, you know, 75 to 80% Cab every year, and then they'll tweak how much of the other components they'll put in. Maybe the same thing with the Merlot. Here, Nickel is saying, you know, we're just going to make these wines an expression of this vineyard, of this grape variety, year in and year out, regardless of what Mother Nature throws at us. We have the confidence in these vineyards, and we're going to see different expressions of the land and what the weather is bringing from year to year. So to me, that's like nerdy, and I like it, so excited nonetheless to try these wines. The label looks familiar. You may have seen their some of their other wines, the sister label, Far Niente. And let's get some little smell. So very fruit driven on the nose, a lot of very, very ripe red and dark fruits. And, you know, a lot of like overly ripe plum. You got a lot of like blackberry action coming through, but I'm not picking up, you know, that much wood. There's definitely like an earthy, like kind of wet soil component as well, excuse me, on the nose. Like a little bit of like a crushed herb, like I'm picking up like kind of like a dried sage as well. So nice nose. Let's give it a taste. Wow, great acidity, which I wasn't expecting necessarily coming from Merlots. I mean, you know, you look at different grape varieties, and when you make wines from them, there's certain characteristics, like, you know, you think about. You know, Merlot, you kind of think of it as being kind of plush and rounded and kind of soft a lot of the time. Well, especially if you're talking about a good Merlot, that's a lot of the things you may talk about. It's interesting with this wine, it definitely has the roundness to it, but it also has like an angular, that acidity that's just hitting right here. It's kind of a counterpoint to that whole roundness factor. And this wine, I'm telling you, would be a tremendous food wine already. Just one sip of it, and I'm just saying, like, man, this would go great with, like, you know, a grilled piece of salmon, like a salmon fillet on a cedar plank. You know, some grilled mushrooms or something. You know, it has that real earthiness, but it also has that bright acidity to stand up to a lot of great foods. Let's give it another taste. Yeah, I'm liking the structure again on this wine. You know, the mid palate, it's not like the first wine, but it's not hollow either. It's definitely, it's solid. And do one more taste. I'm not quite decided on my opinion of this wine. I really like how silky the tannins are on this wine. They're very soft, and this wine is ready to go right now. It would definitely benefit with some more aging. I would say you could hang on to it for another 5 years, no problemo. And I'm going 3.5 stars. I think it's solid effort, nickel. And we have one more wine, also coming from Nickel & Nickel, a 2009 again, and this is coming from the Harris Vineyard. $50 suggested retail, 14.3% alcohol. Again, 100% Merlot, 100% single vineyard. And by the way, Nickel & Nickel, they're up in Oakville. And what's interesting is actually the first one we did, the Sosco Ranch, is more of like lower Napa This area, Oakville, where this vineyard is, Harris Vineyard, is more what you call kind of upper northern Napa. So let's see how the differences are what we smell and taste. Same grape, one vineyard. These wines have all been, you know, kind of the same color. None of them I would describe as being inky. I mean, you could definitely see your fingers through them. They're just kind of dark purplish or garnet. And I'm not really seeing any variation on the rim. Nice color. Let's get a little more air into this, even though these wines have been open for quite a while. Wow, really nice tobacco leaf is the first thing that's coming across on the nose. Yeah, you got like that almost jammy plum component. I mean, almost jammy. To me, it's kind of like in between being something that's overly ripe and something that's like baked or stewed. It's kind of almost kind of in between. And a great herbaceous quality again. I'm getting like this dried rosemary and thyme, little nuances. Yeah, you got like a black leather glove thrown in there. Really intriguing nose. It's like the more I smell it, the more things just keep coming out of it. Yeah, and again, you're getting that earthy component, and it's a little bit dusty, a little bit rustic. Wow, it's a very pretty nose on this wine. And the fruit is very lively. It is, you know, I may have given you the wrong impression when I said kind of jammy, but it's just kind of ripe. That's all. But it's really nice. Give it a taste. Yeah. Wow, that's some concentrated juice right there. It's just like an explosion. The beginning of this wine on the palate is really just a smack in the face of bright, red, acidic fruit, and I mean that in a good way. Again, you're feeling it here, you're feeling it on the edges of your tongue. My mouth is watering, it's like I want some food. I'm really impressed by the structure of both of these wines in terms of the acidity, how soft and smooth the tannins are in both of these wines. Let's give it another taste. Yeah, this wine just exemplifies that whole roundness and lushness of what you think of when you think of a good Merlot. I just love the finish on this wine, the concentration of the fruit, and the great acidity. Again, you can easily hang on to it for 5 or 6 years. All these wines are drinking pretty damn well right now, I'd have to say. And I'm going 4 stars on the Harris Vineyard. I really like what it's bringing. And I'd like to say thank you to the producers, to Switchback Ridge, and to Nickel and Nickel for sending the wines in to be featured on this episode. And also for the wineries who participated in part 1. We had, excuse me, Coho, Cakebread Cellars, and Toomey Cellars, all outstanding. All 6 of these wines are really outstanding examples of California Merlot from Napa Valley. All totally solid, totally legit. I would recommend any of these wines to my best friend. I mean, they're all that good. And so, why don't you check out these guys online, switchbackridge.com. And I think it's nickelandnickel.com. Yes, it is nickelandnickel.com. So thanks again for the wineries for participating. You know, thanks to you guys for tuning in to watch the episode. I'm really curious. I'd love for you to comment and let me know. I mean, where is Merlot on your radar in terms of your palate? I mean, is it something that you drink at all? Do you drink once in a while? Is it something that you've been meaning to get back to? Is it something that you can't stand? Please, I'd love to hear about it, and I'd love to hear, maybe a couple of your own reviews on wines that you've enjoyed from the Merlot grape. So thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, cheers.